I'm Matt Braunger. This might help.
I am not a doctor.
This might help.
I'm not a professional.
Let's have fun. This honestly is a good time.
Honestly, I got no idea what I'm doing. What's going on? Who are you?
I'm Matt Braunger. This might help. The podcast.
Hey, welcome to another edition of This Might Help with Matt Braunger, the advice podcast that's entirely bullshit. I cannot stress this enough. If you actually need clinical help, this is not the podcast for you, but it is fun. And like I said, it might help. I've said this a lot. It's just like someone giving you, say, a tab of acid or, a jacket against weather that might or might not be brisk because you might be too high to tell from inside the party. Hey, this might help. That's basically what it comes down to, but it's for fun. And I have fun doing it. Thanks so much to the Mighties, and thanks to all the people that are calling in. I know it's a weird time. I do have a theory that the holidays were created because it's the darkest and coldest time of the year, and they wanted villagers to stop murdering themselves. It's a dark theory, but like I said, it's a dark time of the year. And like I've always said, I like excuses, to get together. Thanksgiving is a hell of a weird one, but I do enjoy Thanksgiving, Anyway, so enjoy the holidays and have fun with them. This time on the show, I have a guest who I don't know, which I always enjoy because I love having people on that I haven't shared a word with that I get to know, who are often cool creatives, just like in this case. She comes highly recommended. She has a movie coming out that she stars in called The End of Us. She's also a writer and producer on the acclaimed Emmy-winning show, The Morning Show. And please welcome Allie, Allie, right?
Yeah.
See, that's how much I don't know you. Excuse me. Allie Vingiano. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. We've never spoken, so I'm excited to get to know you too.
Never.
And,
we 100% have mutual friends. We have to. Like, there's no way.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Like, I was looking at your Instagram and I was like, oh, we have a lot of people in common.
Okay.
But because of the spelling of my name, it is often people think my name is Ali. Like, especially over email, I often was assumed to be a man, and I present, and I do identify as a woman named Ali.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, but it's the spelling of your name. I mean, I had John Ross Bowie on last week, and his name is spelled like Bowie, and everyone calls him Bowie, and he's like, that's not how you say my name. And all my life, for some reason, people have always given me a soft G, like Braunger, which isn't how you say it. Say it with a hard G. I don't know why. Or they switch the G in the end. They call me Braunger for no reason. People spell it that way. It's the weirdest thing. It's almost like a accidental kind of dyslexia that happens to people with those two letters. So yeah, I identify.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
That happens to me too. They just their brain just makes up a word that they want it to be, even though it does not resemble the actual phonetic sound of the name at all. Yep.
Correct. Are you based out of LA?
I'm based in LA. I am from New York, and I spent some time in New York. Like, when I was coming up, I did like UCB in New York, and I was there for 4 years, and then I moved out to LA, and now I'm a little bit, I do go back to New York like pretty frequently just because my family's there and I love it, but I am 100% now based in LA.
Okay. Where in New York is your family? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a town called Hastings-on-Hudson, which is in like southern Westchester by Yonkers and like north of the Bronx. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to school in Purchase, so I'm pretty familiar with the area. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of people from my school went to like SUNY Purchase for college, and it's now like a very trendy town. Like the New Yorker the New York Times wrote like a piece about Hastings, and like a lot of like cute Brooklyn families are moving up. But when I was growing up, it was not like that.
Holy shit. Like, we have the same kind of origin story because I grew up in Portland, Oregon, which was, it was like Seattle's boring brother or sister. It was just like that. When I was a kid, we were like, I heard cool stuff's happening in Seattle right now. Like, that's how my whole childhood, like, Seattle did everything first. And it was kind of like, it was like I guess, the coolest town in Oregon, but really, what did that mean at the time? You know, and
Right.
now it's been hipster explosion for the past 20 years. So that's funny.
Completely. It's like the place to be. I'm dying to go to Portland. I've heard like the food is amazing. I keep on hearing incredible things. Do you feel, because sometimes I get like a little defensive of my town. I'm like,
Sure.
all these people moving in and like they don't know what it's really like. Do you feel that way about Portland? Or are you like proud of the progress it's made to become this like, you know, hipster haven?
When I was a kid, there were like jokes about like you know, an Oregonian and a Californian are at a campfire, and there's and a someone else, like I'd say a New Yorker is there, and they're like drinking beers, and like the Oregonian throws, like the New Yorker I bet you can't do this, throws a beer in the air and like shoots it out of the air, and the Oregonian's like, watch this, throws it and shoots the Californian, and he goes, why'd you do that? And he goes, well, because that's worth 10 cents. You know, like that's a joke, like that we hate them so much.
Wow.
They come up but it's like, it was this weird, like now, like it's flipped so much that like I never really had that hatred. My big thing is, you know, like most people, international corporate conglomerates that just buy up city blocks and then rent like the country to its citizens. It's like, this is so gross. Like that's the thing that bugs me so much more than, oh, someone's wealthy and they're sick of LA and they want to raise their kid near Willamette River. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like that's flown the coop. It's so much worse now. Like it's so beyond, you know, that, and the whole thing of anytime when I'm touring, people are like, so what do you, all those riots in Portland? I'm like, it was 4 city blocks, and by the end, some maniac set some stuff on fire, and that's terrible, but stop watching Fox News. My parents were at the protests across town in front of the Joan of Arc statue, like where it's so safe. Like they had their own elderly person protest in parts of the city. It's like none of that made the news, you know? Like
Of course not.
Yeah.
No, I mean the media portrayal of the protests and riots in summer of 2020 are like a whole other thing. Like they're
100%.
so deeply fucked. Like
Mhm.
I was at protests too in LA that were not violent, or not violent until cops started violence. Like
Right.
it was completely like awful the way the media just like gleamed onto every single piece of violence and like shaped it to seem like protesters were like out there to start something, which was not the case.
Well, that brings me to a point. Like you worked on Jordan Klepper's show too, right?
Yeah.
You're a producer on that, and then you're on the morning show. So you had like this kind of, you know, through a satirical lens, both in a, you know, very, very, very meta style with Jordan's show, and then with you know, I guess you'd call it more of a narrative with you know, the morning show. I had when I had John Ross Bowie on, I was like, we were talking about how I was saying how when people, because you'll listen to the calls in a minute, when women call in, they're like, okay, I know I'm rambling, and it's been like 30 seconds, you know, but dudes will go on for minutes and minutes and minutes, and maybe by that 4th minute they'll be like, oh yeah, I should probably get to the point or whatever, and then makes up. But it's just like societal. And I brought up that time Matt Lauer was interviewing Hillary Clinton, and he was like, your response, as briefly as possible. He would never say it to a man. They wwere not pressed for time. And there was one of those things I was like, wait, I think Matt Lauer might be a piece of shit. So like, let's get into that specifically, like things you've seen, just anything from your perspective, not necessarily from the sexist point of view, but just what does that bring out in your mind? I was just thinking about that with you.
Well, that story brought out to me the first time I realized Matt Lauer was a piece of shit, which is when he interviewed Anne Hathaway, and he was like, ooh, you had like, because she had some sort of like dress malfunction where like she flashed her like private and wasn't wearing underwear. And he was like, she was on his show to talk about Les Mis, where she was like nominated for an Oscar, like doing a huge like award campaign. And he was like, so like you had you showed everybody your cooch, or like something, like the worst phrasing. And she was like, this is a really interesting story about the like unwanted commodification of female sexuality as presented in Les Mis. And I was like, you know what, Anne Hathaway, you got a lot of shit, but I love you now.
Yeah.
And
That's
and Matt Lauer, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, and Anne Hathaway was one of those people. Like, I just felt like she was so on the one all the time, and such like a sharpshooter. And it's hard being that level of an actor and that level of a star, that she just constantly hits it out of the park. Where it's like, I'm not saying I'm her biggest fan, but it's one of those things where I had to, even though it was like, I think we all were like, Anne Hathaway's annoying or something, but it's like,
Yes.
she works harder than anyone. Like, that's
Right.
probably what annoys us all the most. That she's
Yeah,
a
exactly.
machine, you know?
I used to be like, oh, she's like the annoying theater kid, like so lame. And then I was like, well, I was an annoying theater kid. I was enthusiastic about theater. Like,
Yeah.
we just all like chose someone to hate, and it was
Yeah.
her for a couple of years.
Yeah, she was definitely that person who was winning all the acting competitions, and I was not. You know, like any
exactly.
problem I'd have with her, I'd be like, I guess I just hate you because you're an Olympian. You know?
Right. I was in the chorus and you were the lead, and I will resent you forever. Yeah.
Yeah. So you did theater starting out? You said UCB, you're a performer. And then,
yes, I performed at UCB, and I did. So I like wanted to be an actor from when I was like 4.
Yeah.
And I went to theater camp, and I like very competitive theater camp. I'm talking Natalie Portman, Robert Downey Jr., like a ton of kids went there who became famous. And I only wanted to do musicals, but I have a horrible voice. And my parents would be like, you should try auditioning for a play. And I'd be like, no. So I was like in the chorus, which brought me joy. I liked singing and like dancing and just being part of it. But I never really pursued acting. I like started writing when I was younger, and then like writing became the thing I really like when I was younger. Like in high school, I got really into screenwriting, and I that became the thing I wanted to pursue. So but because, sorry, now I'm on a tangent here, but
no, go nuts.
20s,
I feel like I've been talking too much. I just I feel like we connected, and we were like, I was like, oh, we have similar interests. I'm like, oh, that reminds me, and that reminds me. So please, don't hold back.
You're not talking too much.
Okay.
It's funny because of what you said about like the women versus the men, and like now you're in your head about talking too much, and like, which is breaking the gender stereotype. But in my 20s, I started like making, in my early 20s, I started when I was at UCB making like short films and sketch videos. This was like when YouTube was sort of booming, like Broad City was a YouTube series and had just gotten on TV. And a lot of those videos started going viral and had some success, and I acted in a lot of them. So sort of just by default of like doing UCB and of acting in my own videos, I sort of got into acting. And then then I worked at BuzzFeed for a couple of years and acted in those videos. But once I got Klepper, I was like, okay, great. This is my career, like writer, producer. I'm never going to act again. And then my friends just cast me in this movie. And I was like, sure, I have nothing to do. It's like during quarantine, I'm sitting on my ass, like absolutely doing nothing, trying to learn how to bake. So that was really like my reemergence. I was like, oh, fuck, like I love acting. It's really fun. Making that movie was so much fun, but it wasn't something I was not actively pursuing acting. It just sort of happened. And now I'm so grateful it did, because it was a blast.
That's great. And I think it's one of those things where I use this analogy a lot, where I don't know if you know that thing where you pinch this like nerve in your hand to get rid of a headache, because then your brain thinks about your hand rather than your head. I think I try to do that as much as I can, where I'm like, if I'm trying to write anything, jokes, work on, script, or noting something, anything, if I just stare at it too much, I'm like, oy, like I have to just let my mind wander a little bit, and then I'll go back. So I think if you have that thing where you're just like, it's this or bust, it's like you were just looking at it wrong. You just try things, get better other things, and then it might come back to you. Like, that's fascinating that we're not going for that at all. Wow.
It's been my whole career. Like, I started as a journalist. I was a reporter for BuzzFeed. Then once I started making those videos, I moved into producing, writing, directing. Then like I was on a late night show. I happened to go to a morning show because of my journalistic experience, and because I had like a sample / short film that was about sexual assault and like content related to morning show. But so whenever people ask me for advice, I'm like, dude, I don't know, like go do something else, like learn a skill that will make you unique, like become really like an expert at something other than writing. Like, not that I was an expert journalist. I was not, but I at least had some background. Because I do think it's like you just have to try things and see what sticks and like do as much as you can. And that's like what my whole career has been. So it is hard for me to give advice to people because I'm like, I feel like I've had such a unique, strange trajectory.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. Don't sell yourself short because this show is meaningless, really, in that way. You know, like, just FYI, when people call in, they're not expecting. I mean, I always say, like, look, the thing is, you basically know the answer. You just want someone else to say it, and I get, you know, or whatever. And you're not going to get concrete stuff. But I like having a myriad of different people on here, even though most are creatives, but they're all really different, and they all have a different path, and it's all incredibly chaotic. It's non-linear. I mean, I think the exception is BJ Novak, who got a job fresh out of Harvard.
Right.
You know? But
Right.
that's like, that is literally winning the lottery. He literally won. He got
Those
the
Harvard kids,
and he's set forever. You know, I mean, who was it? Andy, not Richter.
Oh, Andy from The Office. What's his name?
No,
Ed Helms.
Andy Kindler. Andy Kindler.
Oh,
State of the Union at JFL every year, where he just talks shit about everybody in the industry. He had this line that destroyed, where he was just like, BJ Novak left Harvard and landed in LA and got the office, but for 4 hours on that plane, he just didn't know. You know how hard that is? He just, you know, because it's that line, just didn't know, is all of us, where it's just like, I don't know if this is going to work out. This is the time of year personally where end of the year, I definitely take stock and go, well, you know, we'll get them next time. Like for so many things.
The feeling never goes away. Like it doesn't matter how successful you get. Like it just never disappears. So just get used to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell people that, and I have to tell myself that too, where, you know, I have a kid, and lately she's been having like brief night terrors where she just wakes up and screams and then goes back to sleep. And it's like chamomile tea. It really soothes you. No, you wake up and you're like, oh, okay, all right, she's going down. Okay. And then you go back to sleep and your brain's like, but you know what I thought we should think about? And you're like, fucking goddamn it. You go back to REM. You just go back to REM again, please. So, you know, that's the time.
It's so hard also, like not sleeping just fucks with you so much. I've been sleeping horribly and it like is just ruining me. Yeah, I feel like I wake up and I'm like, today was great because it was raining. So I was like, I don't need to get out of bed yet. This is okay. It's a gloomy day in LA, but it's tough. And also with a kid, like you want to protect, I don't have a kid, but I have had a dog, and like you want to protect them so desperately that I imagine like waking up and experiencing that and then trying to relax and fall back to sleep. And you're also like thinking about them, and it's a lot.
Yeah. I don't know how single parents do it, because my wife and I will be like, what do you think? Like, we'll just confer, and neither of us really know. But it's good to just say something out loud to someone and have them echo it back to you and go, all right, we should do this. And then one of you goes and does it. Like, it's incredibly, I'm so grateful for it. You know, like I had to drive through that rain to take Rose to the doctor just for a checkup. And it turned out to be great because I haven't been able to go. We're only one of us gets to go. So I used to drive them and just wait in the parking lot and just on FaceTime, just sit there and watch, you know? So it's like, I got to go with her for the first time. Christ, ever?
Wow.
No, I think
How old is she?
I went, God, yeah, she's 16 months. So I probably, maybe I went once. I don't remember it. But anyway, do you get holiday anxiety? Do you get the end of the year?
So
just constant all the time.
I do have a lot of anxiety. I would describe myself as constantly I'm an anxious person. I try to work on it. I have my things, but yes, I have anxiety. Holidays are a special time of year for me because my entire family is born within 2 weeks of each other, the 2 weeks before Christmas. So there's growing up, it was like hell for my parents because 4 birthdays, or really just the 2 kids' birthdays right before the holidays. And now as an adult, I think I have a lot of anxiety about like my birthday being so close to Christmas. Like I never used to want to celebrate it. And like now it's like I try to, but it's like then everyone's going away for the holidays. And then I love, but I do have holiday specific anxiety, but I will say for whatever reason, I love Christmas. Like I love the holidays. I'm the person who wants to get the tree like the day after Thanksgiving, like, and wants to watch all the Christmas movies. So I think my anxiety is more like present related, travel related. I have to go back home to see my family. And then it's like coordinating with my partner about like, okay, when are we going to see your family? Like there's a lot of just like, and you spend so much money. Like, I think those are the things that I hate about the holidays, but I'm give me some snow, a cup of hot cocoa. It's a wonderful life. I'm very happy.
I'm definitely down with that. I used to get like in my early adulthood kind of depressed over the holidays because I just like think it's just another year gone by, one step closer to death. And now I'm like, I really do love the holidays, you know, Hanukkah, Christmas, like all the lights and getting together with the family and stuff. But yeah, I'm with you, the logistics. Like my wife's family is in Boston and we're going there with a 1-year-old. And we have traveled a lot with her. So it's kind of not so much down to a science, but what we do is it's my parents' house for Christmas 1 year, then her parents.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And we'll see how long that lasts. But for the foreseeable future, it's totally worked. And she's super, super psyched because she's going home to her parents this time. And last year we were in Portland, it was icy and, you know, like not like Oregon winter is so brutal, or Portland winter is so brutal because it rains because it's not cold enough to freeze, but it's like freezing rain. And then at night that freezes on the streets and becomes sheets of black ice. And it's just not a holiday cheer vibe, even though all the lights are up and everything. And this is the height of the lockdown. So you had all these places being like, we're serving hot mead under this tent, and people outside just shivering because they wanted to be out. They want to see people so bad. And it's like, this is not.
The desperation
workable.
Was strong last winter.
Yeah.
I know I was in New York City last winter and people were like eating out in like 20-degree weather in tents. I was like, I'm going to get takeout. Like I'm not going to do this. I'm from LA. I cannot tolerate this. I like couldn't believe the conditions that people were like accepting.
Do you and your partner, what do you do for, do you spend the holidays together? How's it work?
We don't really have like things have been so like last year we were living in New York at the time. So we did like Christmas Eve with his family and then we parents live within driving distance. So like we did Christmas Eve with his family, then we drove Christmas for my family. This year we're doing separate, like he's going to his family, I'm going to mine. So I don't know. We don't have like a tradition yet. Maybe we'll come up with one like in the near future, but it's Pennsylvania and New York. So it's like we can sort of do both in one trip. It's not the worst.
100%.
And but I also wanted to comment on what you said earlier about like the end of the year, because I do think a lot of people feel this, like the end of the year anxiety of like, I didn't do anything this year, like I'm a failure, or like whatever it is, like I didn't do enough. People are getting like, for me, like I have felt that because my birthday is also this month. So it's like the year's over and I'm a year older and like, fuck, what have I done with my life? But because there's so many holiday distractions for me, I'm like, you put up some Christmas lights and I'm like a fly, like attracted to, like, I'm just like, ooh, yay. Like I no problem in the world exists. Yes. So I think that for me, January is the tough month. For me, January is like the most depressed month of the year of like, I set all these goals, the holidays are over, and now like this is just it. Like now I have to go do this stuff. I have to make these changes I've committed to, or like my seasonal depression hits in January.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. It is also, I grew up thinking December's the coldest month, and it's so not.
No, not at all. Yeah.
I don't know where
January,
I got that impression.
February.
I don't know where that idea came into my head. I think it's because all the holidays, and it's kind of your peak of like, it's not the peak of winter. It's when winter starts. Like it ends in February, basically. I don't know. Yeah. So, but
and March is also deceiving. Like you think January, February suck. If you're like a skier, like great, like just like go be in the snow, but like otherwise it's the worst. And then March, you think it's better. You're like, it's over. and then it's still so fucking cold, especially
So
on the
cold.
East Coast. And it's
Yeah.
like the rain, it's like what you're talking about in Portland. It's like it's too warm for the rain to become snow. So it's just like sloshy and like
So gross.
everything's dirty. It's just like, yeah, March, I think, is also bad. April, I can fuck with April.
You're turning a corner. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is funny in March though, looking back, because the same thing in the Midwest as it was as it is in the East Coast that time of year, watching all the people pub crawling for St. Pat's and being
Oh
like,
my God.
can you just let 2 more in? I'm so cold. And like the door person's like, there's no chance. We're way above the fire code. I can't, like, person doesn't even want to drink anymore. They just want to be where it's
They just
warm.
need to be inside.
I'm
Have
dying.
you experienced SantaCon?
Yes, SantaCon, if I'm not mistaken, actually, someone probably will call me on this, but it might have started in Portland because
Really?
because it was that was always a thing when I was a little kid. You'd see these really really drunk Santas. I remember there were 2 Santas. Like, I don't think they were actually copulating, but they were like full on, at the very least, like hardcore, like so drunk you think you're alone, but you're sitting on the edge of a fountain.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
they weren't. I mean, looking back as a kid, you're like, oh, they're doing sex. They're not.
But something nasty is happening.
Something that there's a lot of groping and making out, and I think one of them is a woman. I don't know. I don't care. But it's like it was one of those things where it's just like, wait, not that shattered the image of Santa for me as a kid, but it definitely didn't help with all these really really drunk people like just bounding around the downtown area. So like, yeah. Anyway, long story long. Very familiar.
I hadn't thought of it from a kid's point of view of like, you go to the mall and you're like, that's Santa. And you're like, oh my God, Santa's here. Like, imagine, and then walking out and there's like 100 Santas and they're all like touching each other. There's like a woman Santa over the shoulder of a dude Santa. Like the things that you see in New York are truly foul.
Oh yeah. People, half of them are publicly urinating.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other ones are probably like vomiting into a trash can.
Yeah.
That is probably very traumatizing as a kid. And also just confusing. You're like, why are there so many Santas? Although it would make more sense because going around the whole world in one night is hard.
Yes. Yes. And you're just like, so Santa's drunk flying his sled. Very concerned. So we have 3 calls for you.
Okay.
And for us, I should say. I don't know. They might all be just for you. They might be like, shut up, Braunger. These are for your guest. But my point is, I don't hear them. So
okay.
Renee sifts through them and then basically plays them. I know we have 2 audio and then we have 1 that's written in. So I know what that one is. And to just in fairness, and I just full disclosure, but I'll just read that one after the first 2. But
okay.
I have to ask. I do this with every guest. Do you get asked advice in general?
I do. I was just asked relationship advice from a friend, and then she said, "Dan, we should be a therapist." So I felt like I did a good job in that case. I would say I get asked relationship advice and career advice. And like I was saying, sometimes with the career advice, I don't know exactly what I can say to be helpful because I do feel like how I've achieved what I've achieved in my career is so specific to me, but I do try to give people advice, of course. So I'd say most of the advice is regarding those things. Sometimes I'm an indecisive person, or like I would say like overthinker. So I really like to think of things from like every point of view, and like sometimes that can be good or sometimes that can be bad. Mm-hmm. It depends with advice. Yeah. But I do think of myself as somebody who friends come to with questions.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I was just thinking about the randomness of anything in this business, and it's funny that you said it from friends, because I was thinking of like, let's like pick, if you ask anyone who's been very, very, very successful in the business, like let's just say Jennifer Aniston, and you're like, so how should I make it? And she's like, well, let me tell you what I did. If you book both SNL and the pilot for a sitcom called Friends, you should go with Friends. Thanks, Jennifer. Like it will come down to moment by moment. Some of it will, trampoline you to the next thing. Some of it will be a ditch. You just
No, you're so right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. I just say you have to like just take care of yourself and not take any of it too hard in a way, So sorry, go on.
That is actually really good advice of not taking it too hard and like beating yourself up about the choices you make. It's so easy to do that, but like there is the alternate reality where Jennifer Aniston was on SNL and maybe she had an incredible career. Like that could be it, and she is so underrated as a comedian. Like she's so funny. I think she's the funniest. But it is like you really can't compare anyone's. If you're right that like giving advice based on only the choices you made is not the way to give advice because nobody else will be faced with those things.
Yes, exactly. And to your point about Jennifer, she's ridiculous. I think anyone who's had that kind of staying power and is like been on a show with that much scrutiny for that long and then can bounce to other things, it's like, there's no way this person isn't talented and skilled to the point of like a savant. Like
yes.
there are people I've worked with that I'm just like, oh yeah, that's why you're always on things. It's like people don't chance it. People have this idea that it's like, oh, all that's editing. It really isn't. There's certain people, no way.
And I think you got to
be that good.
Yeah, and I think you get to a certain level of fame where she was like America's sweetheart, and she's this beautiful woman and dating these guys like Brad Pitt or whatever, and it's just like, oh, she's just Jennifer Aniston. Like, yeah, she's just super famous, but like, she actually really deserves that because her comedic timing is unreal, and she's just so natural. And like, I think that we don't really think of her as a comedian. We think of her as an actress, which she is, of course, on morning show. She's great, and she's in a dramatic role, and she's. Like, I think people are really impressed by her performance, and Zendaya got that Emmy, also deserved it, but Jennifer Aniston could have, she was up there. But I think like she should go down as one of like the great comedians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree because it's like people think of comedians as just stand-up. It's like, no, that's what's called a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
There's all kinds, Okay, so that said, I guess let's just roll the first call if you're ready.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yo, Matt Braunger, David Karofko, Grant High School, 1992. What's up, buddy? I need some advice on how do I tell my wife to quit buying Pyrex bowls and shit at the store. I mean, we have a cupboard full and a shelf full of stuff she doesn't even use. It just sits there. So, anyways, let me know what I could do to quit the spending on the Pyrex. Thanks, bud. Let me know.
Wow, blast from the past. Hey, brother.
Who is this? Are you guys? Were you guys good friends in high school?
Yeah, we weren't the tightest, but we definitely. I remember him. We would definitely like, and we still have. I'd say we're still. I'd still see him in town sometimes. He's friends like really close with other guys I'm closer with, but yeah, good dude. Very specific. I will.
Yes.
I'll let you take this first one because I have my thoughts, the thing is, I don't know his wife. I don't know the relationship. I don't know stuff. So it's like, I wish I had more texture to add. You know what I mean? I'm not like setting you up for a fall to be like, oh yeah, the piece of shit. And I know how he's with his wife or whatever, but most of these calls, there's like no texture. I've had people call and go, should I talk to my girlfriend and hang up? And I'm just like, okay, next call. Like I need more. So what are your thoughts?
What do you do when your wife has a addiction to Pyrex? This is a tricky one. I haven't been faced this question before. Here's what I'm going to say. When I have all my Tupperware bowls, like you lose the lid and then you like don't know where it is. And then you like start using saran wrap over it. And then like you feel like you need to buy more. And I think we got to start with throwing out all the things that don't have the lids or that like don't have the right, or find them. Like either find them or throw them out, because I bet she keeps buying them because she feels like she doesn't have like the right set, or like the set is missing, or like there's something wrong with it. So I think you guys need to like do a spring cleaning, little holiday edition, and like go through and toss out all of the old things that aren't useful anymore. What I would recommend doing is just actually getting rid of everything and just buying one set of glass Tupperware. But that seems like it's not gonna happen, because it seems like she already has so many that why would you throw out if you have some good ones too? So, you know, and then another option here is you sit down with her and you say, hey, I've noticed you've been buying a lot of Pyrex bowls, and we don't need these. And is there something deeper here that you want to discuss?
Right.
You know, maybe she just, I don't know, shopping fulfills something in people. Like it feels like they're achieving something, or like it feels like you're like doing something important for the household. So I think you just need to be open with her about your feelings towards these Pyrex bowls, and then throw out all of the ones that are mismatched, because I promise you probably have a cabinet full of like lidless bowls.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I'm definitely, you know, in my darkest hour, team buy it instead of look for it. You know,
Yes.
I've absolutely been that person. My wife is ridiculous, where she'll just be like, let's get another one. And like, especially like with this baby, because like she'll drink out of her milk bottle in the back seat and be like, punk, and throw it. And it'll go under the seat. And I get home and I take her out, and like, meanwhile, this tube has been making cheese for like 3 days. So I just take it out.
God.
And like that, we're both like, throw it the fuck away. Let's get another one, you know, or order some more. But it definitely is it's kind of wasteful. It's one of those things where I'm sure if my parents were around, my mom or someone would be like, stop, clean that out, boil it, sterilize it. And I'm just like, I don't want to. It's gross, you know?
I know. It is. It's like that happened to us when we were buying our Christmas tree. My like partner was like, oh, let's buy like the Christmas tree base thing. And I was like, we have one from last year. And he was like, do you know where it is? And I was like, I'll find it. And then he was like, I'd rather just spend $12 and get another one. And then we did. And then I never found the other one. So I totally get the buying new things. But also if you're over a certain age, like let's say, honestly, it could be 30, could be 35, could be 40, but like you have the thing you're looking for. The thing is in the house. Like you've bought it at some point. You have that screwdriver, like that, whatever you need. So I would just like take all of the bowls you have and just like put them out on the kitchen table. Like I would just like make it visible to your wife, the amount of these things that you have.
Yeah, dude. I think like to the caller, I mean, like you should put like, you know, on the calendar bowl night on like Thursday, you know, and like have a glass of wine and just like, we're doing it. Take all those bowls out, line them up, take the ones you don't need or don't have, you know, a thing to fit, and throw them away, give them away, whatever. And go, okay, we don't need any for a while, you know. Or,
that's a good idea. Donate them.
Yeah, absolutely. And now my mind is going to like a darker place where it's just like, is she hiding something? Is this
I know.
is part of her life that gives her intense joy, just having these boxes just show up in the mail? Or it's just like, it is, as you put it, an addiction? I don't know. But
there might be something deeper, or maybe she's trying to distract you from something. Like she's just trying to distract you with focusing on these, and she's actually like buying a bunch of other things that TBD.
Yeah, dude. I think you should I'd start with what Ali said. Just like sit down with her and be like, hey, what's with the Pyrex? There's so much. let's work on this. So, okay. Hope that helped. Let's roll the next call.
Hey, Matt. My name's Brad. I recently saw you and met you at the Laughing Tap in Milwaukee. I was the guy who went on stage and read the tattoo off your butt, and now I'm calling for advice.
Thank you.
I'm 31, and I have a 2-year-old daughter. I'm a single dad, and I used to perform stand-up, but haven't gone on stage in about 8 years. Now, lots changed since then. Do you have any advice for someone who's starting from scratch? Thanks, and I look forward to seeing the show.
This is a great question.
Yeah, it really is. First off, Brad, thanks for reading my butt. That's like my closer right now is it's almost like a magic trick. This thing I said before is now tattooed on my, anyway.
I don't want to ask any more information because I don't want you to have to give away this closer, but I'm very intrigued, and
I know. I wish I could tell you. It's in the special I just shot, so I don't want to blab about what it is. But thanks, Brad. Off the top of my head, it's just like go back to the open mics for a little while and get your feet back under you, and also watch as much as you can, and write down things you say around the house that you find funny or thoughts you have. It's kind of, that's all I have for you, man. And don't worry about, when you said it, things are really different. They're not. There's a lot more access to way more people, but it's not really that different. People are doing a lot of kinds of stuff, and it's still people talking about their lives and people doing commentary on what's going on in the news, and people that are doing observational humor and improv and whatever. Like, those are the constants. So it's not all that different. So don't let that intimidate you, but it'll be a slog, of course. So good luck. What are your thoughts, Allie?
First of all, I want to say to Brad, like have some self-compassion, because it sounds like you're an incredible person. Like, you get to your early 30s and you're like, it's too late, I'm not gonna make it, like things are over for me, but it's still so young, and you're a single dad with a 2-year-old. Like, fuck yeah, like fuck that. You want to go back out there and do stand-up, like that's so cool and like inspiring, and like be nice to yourself, because I think that's awesome. And I think that you've clearly are dealing with a lot more than what many other stand-up 31-year-olds are dealing with, who are very much still children. Like, it seems like you have grown up and like have a lot of responsibilities, and like, so I think that's really cool, and I think you're cool, and I think you should be nice to yourself and not worry, because it's all going to work out. Not a stand-up. I've never really been, a stand-up, but when I was thinking about it when I was like 23, and like going to some open mics and like being like, maybe I'll do this, and actually like having a lot of fun, someone told me, like, make a list of 10 things that you would never want anybody to know about you, and then make jokes about them. Nice. But it was interesting, and it was smart, and it was real. Like, it was good advice to me, because that is a good place to start. Like, you do have to get really vulnerable, and you do have to like be like, what are things that I'm, it doesn't have to be things like you're embarrassed about, but obviously you're not going to make jokes about the things that like you really never want any, like if you killed some, like, yeah, I don't know, like if there's some really dark shit, maybe it's off the table, but like it was a really good place for me to start. So that's one way to do it.
That's a great idea. And that's a really good point about not getting down on yourself because of it, because it's just such an honorable, cool thing. And now you have a kid, and that's awesome. And, now you definitely have some level of material from that experience.
Definitely.
I would not go with the knee-jerk thing of the old, oh, that woman or whatever, or like, it's, sucks having a kid, because it's like, feel like most people that do that, they don't actually feel that way. They think that's how, drinking people that go see comedy shows, that's the kind of stuff they want. But it's like, don't give people what you think they want, give them what you like to do. That's it.
And I think that, like, I hate my wife, my stupid kid. It's like, unless you have such a specific take on it, like Jim Gaffigan with his like 6 kids or whatever, like you really like talk about that. But I think it's like, it's boring, and it's like just unlikable. Like, okay, now I don't want to laugh at you because like you're a shitty dad. Like, so I think like, yes, having a kid and like being a single dad is so ripe for material, but like do it in a way that is really specific to your experience. Other people will relate to it. Like, the relatability is in the specifics, even though sometimes it feels like you're alone, like you're not. And if you are alone, that's really funny. Like, it's really funny that you're dealing with something that no one else has to deal with. So just be specific. And if you are like having a really hard time being a single dad, like there is a way to talk about that without vilifying your kid or your wife.
Yeah.
I think. And maybe you love your ex. I mean, maybe you're not, you don't have a wife. I'm sorry. Who knows who the mother is, and like who knows where, yeah. So who knows the relationship there. But yes, I agree that oh, my wife is not
and like, and again, if it is that thing where this person was really terrible to you and you felt like
abandoned the kid,
whatever, it's like, you should aim your humor in the direction of your passion. If that's, if there's genuine rage, I can see some humor coming into that. So like, as much as I'm like, I shouldn't give advice on material, but you get what I'm saying, dude. So yeah, dude, but again, thanks for reading my butt and thanks for calling in. I know it takes some real sand, takes some guts. I appreciate it. Okay, we have one more, and it is, it's a lot. I'm looking at it right now, and it's very short. But as I said, sometimes people just don't give you enough. And this one, I'm just gonna say, it's not exactly this, but it's kind of like when you look on Facebook and someone's like, I'm so angry at someone right now, but I can't tell them, or something like that. And you're like, are you really with that post?
Sort of like a subtweet. Yeah.
Yes.
Situation.
So this person, okay, it's real broad. I'll just read it. How do you forgive completely?
Wow.
What's the answer, Allie? As brief as you can. As brief as you can. I'm doing the Matt Lauer.
You don't. That's my Hillary Clinton. You don't.
You don't, Matt.
Or you do an eternal sunshine memory wipe. I think those are the only two options.
Yeah. I feel like that's a God thing or a Jesus Christ thing. It's you definitely can let things go and work through things and definitely forgive, but it's just that the whole thing of like for complete. I mean, you can. I don't know the ABCs, and it would depend on the situation and what the transgression was.
I think that if you're struggling, okay, so here's me like getting really into it. If you're struggling to forgive completely, I have been in this situation, right? Like with when someone wronged me once, and I was like, I really want to forgive you. Like I'm trying to forgive you every day, but it's so hard. And I couldn't do it until I accepted that I would not forgive him ever. And like, then I could say, hey, I'm not going to forgive you completely for this. There's certain things that I find unforgivable, but I accept that they happen. And I accept that. And can you accept that I'm not going to forgive you for them? And then like, we can move on, because they're in that acceptance. There's a sense of like, maybe forgiveness here is not what's, I mean, it's not what's going to solve it. And I'm did this work out? No, we still broke up. But like, I will say I was actively trying to really work on forgiveness. And it wasn't until I could admit to myself that actually to me, this was unforgivable. And then things could improve. So like, I think if you can accept that, like, I can't forgive you 100%, but I can forgive you 90%. And that 10% is still going to be there, and it's going to come up sometimes. And I'm going to feel these feelings. And instead of running away from them, and instead of getting upset that I haven't forgiven you 100%, I'm just going to find that 10% of acceptance and say, like, okay, these feelings are coming up again. That's okay. Like, then this is just my new reality. I think like, just try to forgive instead of 100%, just try to forgive like 80% or 90%. Because forgiveness is not a one-way street. It requires work on the other person. Like you can never forgive 100% unless the other person is actively trying to get you to a place of forgiving 100%. Right. And you can't control someone else's actions.
Yeah, I think this person was wronged and wants to let it go, but can't. And it's kind of like, you can't just pummel that out of yourself. it'll go as it goes, and you can say, you know, it's one of those things. I think here's what would stick in my craw if this happened. If someone was like, will you forgive me? And the person was like, or no, even better, the person said to this person, look, I forgive you. And then the other person went, completely? And I'd be like, you know what? Fucking no. You know, because it's just like, just take it. Just take it. You
Yes.
know? And you have to say that to yourself too. Like, okay, I've forgiven them. And it's kind of like, completely is just so strong, where it's like, you've moved on. Just leave it at that. I think it's the definition. I think it's like this person saying, so much of this show is CSI, is really kind of just breaking down the kind of emotional, like what, peeling the onion, and is this the onion? Is it an orange? And but it just kind of comes down for me. Why did this person choose completely? Because it was like, how do you forgive someone? It would be such an easier answer for me.
Yeah.
Where it's
But
like
completely
is strong. It's so strong.
because it's like this assumption, like it's as if it never happened, like it's as if we can go back to before this happened, and that's just not how life works. And like there's always going to be that little bit of like memory and like emotional response in your body that this has happened. So completely is like, it's hard. It's honestly,
it's like saying, how do you forgive and forget? It's like, you don't forget. You can't make yourself forget unless you know, like you usually put it, the
eternal sunshine mind wipe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
like you just can't control if you forget. I mean, you can drink a lot, you can try, but
I had the
I
same
don't
thought.
recommend that.
It'll come back. I genuinely think if you're like, I will drink this memory out of your head, you will lose only memories you want to keep. You know, you will not. That's just how your brain works.
You'll just be so drunk crying about the memory that you were still like specifically trying to forget. Yes, 100%.
There was a guy who I used to work in a restaurant with, and like him and his girlfriend worked together with us, and she broke up with him, and he was a wreck for a long time, and then it was one of those things where if everybody was out, you couldn't mention her because he would just go away in his mind and would like just be like drunk in like a booth by himself and just being like, I just don't understand why she would ruin such a wonderful thing. You know, like, and you're like, well, come back, stop. And I understand, we've all felt that. It's easy for me to go, snap out of it. I'm not saying that, but it was like, I think years later, I saw him and a bunch of people together, and I remember when you were so-and-so, and he like got distant. I'm like, it's still going.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, oh man. It's just, my point is not to say that this guy is weak or whatever, anything like that. My point is just like, some things stay with you. like even when you try to work through them.
You really try to work through them, but some people just like really have a hold on you in a way that is so annoying. Like it's just like, why is this person still taking up power in my brain? Like I don't think about them. I don't like them, but somehow they like have this little part of my brain that they can just like control. And it is extremely frustrating. So yeah, I totally get that with your friend. And like, and then from an outside perspective, it's like, come on, dude, like whatever, this was 6 years ago, like grow up.
Stop.
Yeah.
No, because that is there too, where it's like, it's been years, man. Like, come on, something. But yeah, so I think we got down to it. Like threw a monkey wrench into the forgiveness engine for me.
The completely blew my mind, honestly. When I heard it, it really blew my mind. And then like, yeah, but you know what has another genuine, I feel like I've been very genuine today, but like another earnest response here is meditation. Sure. I started meditating, and like the idea that you are not your thoughts, and that like you are like separating yourself from your thoughts has been really helpful for me. And I think that forgiveness is something that and like Headspace, I think they have like a specific series on forgiveness. They have like series on a lot of things, and I'm pretty sure there's one on forgiveness. So like if this person is earnestly really trying, then I would recommend that. And if they're just trying to fuck with us by adding completely to the sentence, then they've succeeded.
No, I don't think they are. I don't know. I don't know. I just get this vibe. I won't even get into looking at I looked at their profile picture. They have a protected account, so I didn't look at their things. But like just as we were talking, I was like, let me do a quick deep dive just to get a perspective. And I don't know, from like, I didn't get anything off of anything, not even the profile picture, because I didn't feel like the one rule on the show is I never Google anything. But that's mostly like, hey, how many miles is in a? You're like, I'm not. Just like if you post like like if you when you're posting, you're doing promo like a mad person right now, I'm sure, for your movie.
Oh yeah, it's a nightmare.
Someone will write back and be like, what are the show times in Lancaster, Pennsylvania? You're like, stop it. Stop. Yeah. Like,
I know.
I get that all the time. I'm coming to so and so. What time's the show end? It's like, what? Call the venue. I don't know.
I have no idea. And you can Google this. It's very easy. It's actually easier probably than commenting on my Instagram. So yeah. And I'm very familiar with Lancaster. You specified Pennsylvania, and I was like, oh, I know what you're talking about.
I was there 4 days ago.
Yeah. Wow.
I was just there. Yeah. I did there in Wilmington, Delaware, and ended in Baltimore. So that was the end of my run this year. So yeah. But Lancaster's a cute little town. Very
It
quaint.
is. It's a lot cuter than I expected. I thought it was pretty charming. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, then, if this person is really earnestly, asking, which it seems like they are, then I'll throw in meditation there.
Great. Perfect. So here we are at the point where you plug. So
yes.
Let's talk about the movie for a second. Let's get into that.
For sure. Yes. A lot of promo, which is so hard, like on social media. Like I feel like my social media over COVID, like I just sort of like detached from it. And now I'm trying to be good at it again and connect to my audience and all that stuff. Or just like be a person. I connect to an audience sounds like a little different than what I'm actually trying to do, which is just post. But promoing is really tough. It's hard. Yeah. But it has been a joy. The movie is out now. It's streaming on Amazon and iTunes. It's called The End of Us. And we shot it over COVID. So it was like a year and a half ago now. It's very weird how long it takes for a movie to come out. But we filmed it a year and a half ago. We had a blast. I made it with a group of friends. We just like shot it with our own money in an Airbnb. And it went to South by. It premiered at South by this year, 2021. Feels like 5 years ago, but it was this year. And yes, it's about a couple that has broken up and are still living together, and it's sort of an anti-rom-com. It's a rom-com, but it's really ultimately about like how to know when to break up with somebody and moving on and maintaining, finding a friend and a person you've loved, and forgiveness is a big part of it too. So listener, if you want to learn about forgiveness, you can watch our movie.
Cool. Right on. Okay. Well, check out The End of Us and keep up with Ali Vingiano. I had a good time on the show. I hope you really did too. Did you?
I really did. I had a great time. I love talking to you and learning about you, and it was really fun. So I've been listening to the show too, and I'm always so I think you give great advice even when there's really silly questions like if your parents are abducted by aliens or whatever.
Oh shit! Like I wish we'd get more of those. Like we get so many more sincere ones than I'd like, if I'm honest. But like I wish people wouldn't cut themselves off at the knees and be like, oh, this is dumb. But like I always the earlier incarnation of this podcast I had it was called Advice from a Dipshit, and we had. Me and Amanda, who was my co-host at the time, had a guy call in. Listeners are like, I know what you're going to say, but I do say it a lot. A dude on acid with his roommate saying like, there's a possum in our attic. Should I put on boxing gloves and go get it? Like go chase it with the gloves on. And it just like, this is such a great one. A, because I'm not going to get to you in time. These things come out 2 weeks ahead, and B, because wow, like I want more weird or crazy or whatever. So keep the sincere ones up. Don't hold back. But, we're trying to collect an archive. So just call in. Yeah. No.
I hope that listener put on those gloves and went and fought the possum. But yes, I'll try to think. Anytime I'm not sure what to do about like an animal in my yard, I'm going to call and leave a message.
Sure. Yeah. Or anything else. So Anyway,
Okay.
you're awesome. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. Have a great holiday.
You too. Good times. Man, she was awesome. If you need any advice, call in, leave any message you want, as long as you're asking for advice or at least a question. But beyond that, go nuts. Call 323-763-0228. Again, 323-763-0228. And thanks.
This Might Help with Matt Braunger was created and hosted by me, Matt Braunger. Produced by Outer Circle Media. Executive producers Matt Kleinschmidt and Robert Kelly for the Laugh Button Podcasts.